All right, so it looks like we're going to have a new VA secretary. Of course, there's going to have to be confirmation. So let's talk about some of the questions that are being raised about the qualifications and positions of President Trump's pick to lead the VA. Trump's nominee is White House physician Dr. Ronnie Jackson. He's an admiral, but as far as we know, he has no management experience. So we wanted to bring in the veteran perspective here. Paul Rieckhoff is the founder and CEO of the Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, the IAVA. Now, they released a statement in part saying firing a VA secretary is easy compared to finding someone who can effectively do the job. We have PJ joining us now. As always, good to see you, brother. Thank you for your service. Happy Easter.
Back at you.
The VA has had some improvements. Shulkin pointed out in his goodbye letter that they went from 45 satisfaction to 70 satisfaction. But that belies that there are huge issues. There's been huge turnover at the top. What is your concern now?
Well, here we go again. I mean, since I got home from Iraq in 2004, this is the third VA secretary to resign or be fired in scandal, right? We had Jim Nicholson under Bush, then we had Shinseki under Obama, now we've got Shulkin under Trump. So here we go again. It's a lot of tumult, it's a lot of upheaval, it's a lot of changes in leadership, and as you discussed in your earlier segment, I mean, the VA is a monster for any leader to try to manage effectively. And when the changeover happens, it's very disruptive to the frontline personnel of the VA, it's very disruptive to the veterans that depend on it for care. So that trend for the last decade and a half is something that can't be overlooked. I mean, that's what veterans are dealing with on the ground in communities nationwide while all this drama happens in Washington.
He is an admiral, Ronnie Jackson. He has worked for different presidents' administrations, so they're listing those as qualifications for him. He's an admiral, so don't worry about the management experience. Right. And he's worked for Democrats and Republicans, so he's nonpartisan. You guys should like that. Is that enough?
No. I mean, he's going to have a very hard road to hoe to try to convince people that he's qualified. I mean, let's take a step back again. General Shinseki was a four-star Army general, was the chief of staff of the Army, and it took him a couple years to get the handle on how to run VA on a basic level. So, you know, just because you were a soldier doesn't mean you're qualified to be the Secretary of Defense. I mean, this guy's really got a tough job, and nobody really knows who he is. Is he an empty vessel? Does he have strong views on privatization, on reforming the VA? We don't know. So the confirmation hearings are going to be really, really important. The Senate, House, time for you guys to step up and really grill this guy and find out if he's qualified to not only run the agency, but care for our veterans in a time of war. You know, people tend to forget we're a country at war. Folks are coming back. Men and women are coming back every single day. They need to know if this guy's up for the task.
Even though he's a member of the military, if you guys, when you're hearing the vetting, you're not impressed, will you come out against?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to let our members speak. I mean, they were very vocal about Shulkin. They weren't happy about how things were going over the last couple of weeks. But the veterans groups are also holding the line on privatization. That's the bigger fight here.
All right, so let's talk about that, because Shulkin says in his goodbye letter, he doesn't really talk about, you know, he says these are false allegations, whatever, he's gone, it doesn't matter anymore. Yeah. But he says this is about privatization, that there are those in this administration who believes that that's the key. Reduce or even replace the VA by putting, letting veterans get out in the private. The plus side is, oh, the private sector does everything better than government, so it'll be better for our veterans. There are a lot of concerns as well. Where's your organization?
Well, this is the bigger political fight that goes back years. I mean, Shulkin's legacy may not be his time as VA secretary, but what he chooses to do now. Is he going to come out and be an advocate and really fight this fight, or is he going to go quietly? You know, the veterans groups have held the line on privatization, saying they don't want it. Right? Privatization has gotten more popular with most of America, and they're open to it. But at the end of the day, we've seen that the economics don't work and the effectiveness doesn't work. There was a recent RAND study that said here in New York,
Shulkin also mentioned the complexity.
Finances. Yeah, this has been a political pipe dream for some, but there's another side of it. It's not all ideological. Some of it's profit-driven. We're talking about $250 billion at the VA. That is a massive amount of money that a lot of companies, organizations, interests want a piece of. They want to get a piece of that and see if they can do it better, if they can. Some of them want to line their pockets, but veterans have to be the key here. They have to be the center of any kind of reform, and they should be the voice that drives this conversation, not even the politicians, not even the president. They should be talking to veterans groups especially who understand this stuff inside and out.
Now, maybe as a plus side, if you have someone that the president likes, right, and by all accounts he does, it may be easier to get his ear, because we saw what just happened in this omnibus bill. The thing's 2,200 pages long, so everybody was going for their pork in there, right? Something to bring home. This is their last big deal before the midterms. We get it. But you guys had a deal on the table that they were banging out about really needed reforms for the VA, and it didn't make the cut in the omnibus bill. Maybe if you have a guy running it that the president likes more, thinks is his guy, maybe you don't get cut out the next time.
I mean, that shouldn't be the driver here. I mean, if access to the president is a problem, that's a problem for the president, not for the secretary. And the president watches CNN. So if the secretary's got to get on CNN and appeal to the president, that's what they should do here. But they really got to get down and understand this is not easy. This is going to be a very complicated thing. You can't just wave a magic wand and fix VA. A lot of people come in and say, I'm going to clean up the VA in the same way they say they're going to clean up Washington. But it's where politicians' big ideas generally go to die. This is the biggest challenge facing a president. You know, can you really make this one work? This is the one below the radar that means life and death for men and women who've served. That's a real challenge. And often it's a breaking point.
Do veterans believe, as you can tell from your surveys and yours and others' experience anecdotally that you hear about, that the VA is still the best model of how to care for injured veterans?
For some. Right? I mean, it's not a one-size-fits-all. There's an old saying, if you've seen one VA, you've seen one VA. It is inconsistent, but quality of care is generally rated very high, consistently rated high. So the folks who do get into care generally say it's good, and they're happy with it. But getting into care is definitely too much of a problem. Rural areas or the remote areas have had a hard time evolving. Women don't get the care they need. This is a very old bureaucracy that's got to be dragged forward into modern times, and they haven't done a good job. And changing VA secretaries every couple of years doesn't make it any easier.
Last word to you. What do you want the American people to know right now about where the point of the struggle is for veterans?
Well, don't forget about this, right? Something crazy is going to happen in Washington any minute, and VA is going to kind of fall by the wayside. Give it a couple weeks. We're going to have confirmation hearings in Washington for Jackson. That's going to be a really critical point. It's bigger than VA. It's even bigger than veterans. This is about our politics. This is about whether special interests will cut out veterans' voices, grassroots voices, veteran service organizations, or if we can rise up and keep them accountable.
We will stay on it. You will help us do that.
Thank you, my friend.